Pokemon is celebrating its anniversary this year as one of the most generational franchises of all time. It sells so many video games, so many merch, so many card games, and it's just in general, it's just a cultural phenomenon in the modern day, still to this day. Pokemon is a franchise that has had multiple spanning video games since the 90s. Gen 1 obviously starting it all, and continues to proceed to the point where people are anticipating Gen 10, where new Pokemon will come in, a new region will spawn, and a lot of discussion will be had about how the game's quality is going to be. As Pokemon right now, its reputation, at least in my opinion, is starting to crack. At least in the games department. You see, while Pokemon Legends Arceus and Legends EA are the Legends games, and both have been pretty solid for the most part, I can't lie and say that Pokemon's mainline games of Gen 8, 9, and what we're hoping we'll see good in 10, I can't lie and say that, as of recently, they haven't really been delivering as what I would hope. Pokemon had a rough time on the Switch. I can't even put it into other words. It did not have the greatest time on the first Switch. Yes, there were a couple good Pokemon games that released on Switch 1, but I can't lie here and say that there have been consoles where it has been far superior. The only game I would say that's pretty good in quality would have been Pokemon Legends Arceus. Now, that's not to say you couldn't have found good things in these other Pokemon games. You'll find people in the camps that love Sword and Shield, the Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl remakes, as well as the Gen 9 Scarlet and Violet games. However, the reason why this video is happening is because we got recent news that Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen, the Game Boy Advance remakes of Generation 1 in the Kanto region, is officially coming to Switch 1 and Switch 2. For the first time in probably in a while, over a decade of potential access to this game in modern consoles. However, this has sparked a discussion of ownership and piracy, and I'm going to get to why. Today, we're taking a look at the Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen ports as a discussion. First things first, I need to talk about the Pokemon Company problem. At least, this is what in my opinion it is. Obviously, take what I say with a grain of salt. This is just personally my preference and my opinion. And what I say doesn't mean that it's yours. Also, one thing before I really start into discussing this topic, don't attack other people for spending the money that they want to if it makes them happy. If people decide to spend the money on Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen, then they're all happy to. If that's what makes them happy, and if that's how they want to spend their money because they love the franchise that much, that they want to be able to play those games, then allow them to. FireRed and LeafGreen are great remakes after all. So, if that's what they value, then let them do it. However, I'm going to get into the reason how this has gotten out of hand. You see, Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen randomly just dropped in the Nintendo eShop, just randomly on a random day. And later we got the official announcement that it was officially coming to Switch 1 and Switch 2 by the Pokemon Company. However, there's more than what meets the eye. For example, these ports are $20. Now, you might say this is a multi-hour JRPG, so they could probably get away with that price, and if it was just that price with some quality of life features, some new additional things to do, and as well some online and trade systems, that would be great. However, it's the Pokemon Company. Whereas I feel as recently, the Pokemon Company has been trying to get away with doing the bare minimum. You see, I'm just going to be straight up honest, at least to me, a consumer, coming from my point of view and my opinion, like I said. Don't take my opinion as yours, and don't take my opinion as speaking for everyone else. This is just personally me, the individual making this video. This is personally my opinion. I feel like this is completely bare bones in terms of ports. There's no save states features, no load states features, there's no rewind mechanic, there's no online because they decided to not put it on the NSO subscription for the sake of not having online battles. The only feature here that will be implemented is the Pokemon Home system. That to me raises a lot of red flags, and there's even footage out there currently of these ports, as someone has gotten their code recently of the LeafGreen version. And by the way, this port does not support widescreen. It is still at the same ratio that it had on the Game Boy Advance, meaning that literally all they did was just take the ROM of the game, or at least of the ROM of the GBA game, and straight up just put it on the Switch 2 with no features and changes to add to it. It's just straight up the game. And in my opinion, that should only account for a $5 port. These games are more than 20 years old. These games released around 2004. It's criminal to think that we should be allowing these companies to just get away with this thing. And I think that's what my main take is. I can't rationalize spending $20 on a port that, while yes, it's still a cheaper version to play these games probably nowadays, especially when you look at the eBay market for trying to buy physical copies of these games. Let me resurface this. eBay, I think, is actually a good tool, but I can't stress enough that at times the prices for these games get out of control. In order to play the original versions of FireRed and LeafGreen, to physically own them, you first need to buy a Game Boy Advance, which is already probably going to be in the $80 to $100 range. Then, we're probably looking at games that are more than hundreds and hundreds of dollars on the market, to even own physically FireRed and LeafGreen. Now, these prices might go down because now it's being ported on Switch 2, so now there's a version of it, but also, this game is only coming out digitally. I did see that they're planning to release a small little bundle for people that want to buy the physical version, but even then, that's only giving you a code, and you have to use the code by the time of July. Pretty much, this bundle is only going to be good for a little bit of time, but at least you get some good accessories from the company from there. I can't lie though, and can't stress enough, that the reason why I'm saying I can't validate this price is simply because they didn't do really anything to this port. It's just a straight up port of a 20-year-old game. Like I said, there's no features to accommodate this, and they didn't even have the audacity to add online to this. How cool would it have been to add online, and to be able to have the online battles with their Pokemon lineups of Gen 1 in the FireRed and LeafGreen versions? I feel like that's a little insane, if I'm being completely honest. That the whole reason, if they just simply added it on Nintendo Switch Online to have the online capabilities, we would have literally been able to play these online. And again, I think that's what my Pokemon Company problem is at. I just feel like they do the bare minimum because they know they can get away with it because of the simple fact that Pokemon as a brand is as huge as it is. They know they can get away with things like this, and at times, I think is the reason why the outlash and the outrage of this port has become what it is. Now, I'm going to make a point for both camps, because this is a conflicting debate about ownership and piracy, which is something that I haven't really touched on in previous videos, so I'm actually quite curious to see how my take would be perceived if I say what I believe. Obviously, I've been gaming for a bunch of years. I've been gaming since I was a little kid, and I continue to do it as my passionate hobby, to the point where I even want to make YouTube videos and a whole YouTube channel ran by yours truly to be able to really show my passion for these games. However, I think it's finally time that I talk about both sides, and why I believe that no matter what, both sides are on the right here. Like I said, if you believe that the $20 you want to spend on these ports are worth it, especially because they're the cheapest way to at least own these games in your own right, then by all means go for it. There's nothing absolutely wrong with that. If that's what makes you happy, then I would say whatever makes you happy, you go all in to make sure you gain that happiness. But now, let's finally talk about both sides. The ownership side. You see, there's going to be people that only want to buy the games that they want to play. People love, at least still to this day, owning a physical collection of these games, or at least still having that library on hand on their consoles. People, straight up, the Nintendo Switch 2 is getting sales and is becoming one of the fastest selling consoles of all time, especially the fastest selling console of this generation. And it's going to be clear that a lot of people are going to want to buy the games to put on that hardware, because you got to remember, at least with FireRed and LeafGreen, you could play that docked on your console and play it as well on the go. It's a Pokemon game in the modern day of Gen 1 where you can literally play this on the go. Yes, you could say you could mod a Nintendo 3DS and potentially get the virtual console versions of the GBA games and do the same thing. But I think what makes it unique is that people want that ownership part. You see, like I said, people are going to be happy spending the money on these ports. Like I said, there are two camps to this. There are people who absolutely love that these games are finally getting the port recognition that they deserve, even though it's the bare minimum, at least in my opinion, of these ports. And I feel like If they want to justify paying that, then by all means, they're allowed to. It's going to be fun to play these games again for those people. And I highly recommend that they should play this game again on the Switch too, if they feel so to do so. The ownership part is different than emulation, and I think that's what I want to discuss about. Some people just outright don't feel comfortable doing it, and that's fine. For the piracy camp, for the people that do want to pirate these games, I feel like you have to look at it on the other side. I'm a person that straight up has tested in the waters of the emulation game, and I can tell you right now that I think it's perfect. I think it's a great way to try to preserve video game classics while making it approachable for a lot of gamers. However, not everybody feels comfortable doing it. While we feel comfortable doing it and testing out what we can do for preservation of these classics, I can completely understand if people see classic retro video games being ported, that they're going to want to try to use it in at least the most convenient way for them. But I also understand people in the ownership side who still just want to own the games when they do come out, as it's still a modern way to get these games without having problems. I think both sides are great. If you want to own the game and have it on modern consoles, that's perfectly fine. If you want to emulate it, because it's a classic that's been out for more than 20 years, and you're basically going to be playing the exact same version that is on the Nintendo Switch 1 and 2, then by all means, I feel like you should do it. There's really no problems to this debate, I feel like. However, I feel like the outrage and the outpour on both sides, completely just attacking each other on social media, is completely ridiculous. There are ways to justify both sides. You gotta remember that some people just simply aren't comfortable enough to emulate, and that's perfectly fine. Us people who are perfectly comfortable to emulate, we will continue to do so, because that's at least a way to preserve these games. And it would also be different if you were emulating the modern Switch console. You were completely emulating games that are literally releasing right now, which is a huge vandalization in the piracy game in my opinion. If you're emulating a game on the GameCube, if you're emulating a game on the PS2, if you're emulating a game on the Game Boy Advance, if you're emulating a game on the Nintendo Wii, and if you're emulating a game to as far as the Xbox 360 and PS3, then I feel like you are absolutely welcome to do so. Those games might not even be able to see the light of day again. Some of them will, some of them won't. And it's perfectly fine to emulate these games, because straight up, the eBay market, obviously, post-COVID, has gone out of hand. Well, at least some of these titles. Some consoles are easier to make collections for than others. Other games are just completely going to outprice consumers in order to really build on that collection for that certain franchise. It is what it is. This is the world of video games that we live in currently. And until it gets fixed, or until we get a big video game market crash, which is what I'm expecting, as things are completely getting out of hand in prices nowadays, whether that be games, accessories, controllers, mechanics and stuff like that, I think soon we're going to see something completely change the scope of the video game industry that might honestly help for the better. But what do I really personally think of the Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen ports? I think people who make the decisions should only care about what they're deciding. Yes, I know the emulation and piracy camp are going to look at it as people justifying just any of the bare minimum being allowed and just repeatedly happening. But the thing is, at the end of the day, we can't speak for other people. If the people on the ownership side, myself included because I'm part of both camps, I will want ownership in a lot of physical games for things that appeal to me, for things that I do want to own. One of these days I want to build a precise video game collection. People who know me have known I've had discussions that I want to do this in the future. God willing, I have the money to afford it. And I can completely understand people who in the modern day want to build on that collection of the Switch 2. You know, as the Switch 2 is still the only console that if the full game is on the cartridge, that it will download instantly and you'll be able to play it from the jump. I love building a physical collection, and I completely understand other people that are still trying to do that. Obviously, it's weird to mention that in this situation, as you can only get these games digitally, but I still get for people who also buy them digitally in that camp as well, as it's just such an easy way to access the whole library, and it's such a fast way to get them. And technically, you'll still have them in the library in fast access. I just feel like every side is correct. No one's really in the wrong. If people buy them, let them buy them. If people want to emulate them, let them emulate them. I feel like the conversation is just as simple as that. And I feel like it's gone completely out of hand to people just attacking each other for just simply just wanting to play and enjoy video games. And I feel like the video game community has just gotten to a point of this toxicity that I feel like really needs to be fixed. I want to leave a little message here at the end of my video, but straight up, this channel will be mainly focused on retrospectives and obviously videos like this on the side while I'm working on my next video game retrospective project. I will make a hint that my next video game retrospective is the first God of War. Since the remake trilogy just got announced recently, I thought it would be a good time for people to look back on the original Greek mythology trilogy, which is exactly what I'm working on right now. However, outside of that, I do just want to say straight up that this YouTube channel is straight up for the positivity of video games, to look in every single light. Yes, we'll criticize and critique certain games, and obviously we'll give our own opinions, but I want to make a positive and engaging community here. The whole point of this channel is to make people feel the freedom to enjoy the video games that they do, and have a healthy discussion about it. And I want to be that part of the change to see the good in the video game community, because I know that there is good out there. I know that might sound very out of nowhere, especially just in a random video about Pokemon ports, but I feel like it is necessary. I can't stress enough, if this video is first exposing you to what the topic is about, I'm telling you right now that on social media, this conversation got completely out of hand. And at points, it made me feel very sorry for certain people that were just getting blatantly attacked by their comments that they were receiving. Video games are video games. They're a form of media. Just let people enjoy this form of media, this form of art, and this form of passion that they'll have for this medium, as well as also just let them appreciate just the entertainment as a whole. Pokemon is a big brand for a reason. It didn't just get there because people just want to support the bare bones thing. People genuinely just like the concept of Pokemon, to go out there and be able to build a team in their own way, to be able to level up their own creatures, to just do whatever you can in Pokemon. It's the reason why it's popular still to this day. And while yes, I think the Pokemon company is a bit of a scummy company currently, and I would love to have some fixes and immediate changes to what they're doing, I can't blame people for still buying their products, myself included, as I bought physically Pokemon Legends ZA. I can understand the concept here. But like I said, this YouTube channel will continue to be about positive impact and hoping that we can make a change in the video game industry. If I ever grow into the YouTube channel that I hope to become one day, I really hope that you will follow me on this path and journey to build on this community. And also to explore video games, whether modern or retro, and just completely show their quality. Whether good, whether bad, we are still here in love of video games.